It's not red.
Not red? Yeah, that one's pink. What's up guys, Sean here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over some tips when it comes to sharpening tips, especially if your tip is damaged, rounded off, broken off, anything like that, or just in general if you want to have a nice pointy tip when you're sharpening on a fixed angled system. So first off, I'm going to start by showing you a little modification I made, and that is I was actually organizing, going through some stuff, doing some cleaning, and I came across this old shifter handle that I actually had in my first race car I built about a decade ago, and that definitely gave me some nostalgia, all kinds of good memories. And I was looking at it and I was like, I could use that for my KME. And that would make an awesome, really badass handle for the stone carrier. I picked it up, I was checking it out, and within another 30 seconds, I had figured out how to actually use this as my stone carrier handle. So this what is the factory KME little I guess your knob for your stone carrier. That was sitting on the ground right next to this, or sitting on my carpet right next to it, and I just picked up this, started threading it in to the shifter, and then boom, there we have it. I ended up needing to use a little washer right there to get the right spacing so the handle would be facing the right direction, like that when it's all the way tightened down. And then if I'm using a different stone, I can either remove this washer or add washers as necessary to get this in the right orientation. And then I just cranked it down tight to get this to thread in the rest of the way. So now that's threaded in nice and tight into this shifter handle, and we have a nice, extremely ergonomic stone carrier handle. And don't jump to assumptions and conclusions that, oh, it's so heavy, it's going to throw off the weight, blah blah. Well, yes, it does add weight, but it doesn't matter, because I control the movement of the stone carrier. I control the tools, not the other way around. The sharpening system isn't controlling me, I am controlling it. So the weight is not going to affect the pressure or anything at all. If anything, it helps you because you have even better ergonomics and increased control. See, I can keep as much weight up off of it as I want. Even if I do let the weight of this lay on there completely, it's not too much pressure. It's just the right amount, technically, if you really think about it. So awesome idea that I just kind of stumbled into. Really, really excited about that. I absolutely love it, and I would definitely recommend trying it out if you happen to have one of these laying around. It worked really good. Super happy with it. Then you can see right here, this is the spring collar stopper, and that prevents you from riding up onto the face of the blade when sharpening. So you are not scratching up the face of your blade. And it's nice having that spring, because you're not banging into it and wearing stuff out, because it has that spring to kind of cushion it. So it keeps everything nice and smooth and quiet, and you're not banging around a bunch of stuff. So that's nice to have. And I actually have another one that goes on the back, so I can't come out too far past the edge. But being completely honest, I don't really put it on too often. I did for maybe the first time after I bought both of the stop collars, because I'm always taking this out and sending it down when I'm flipping, or if I need to inspect it or anything like that. You know, I don't think too many people are going to want to undo that every time you go to flip the knife and stuff like that. Yeah, so this Strider, it had a pretty bad tip, but I've since brought it back for the most part. It just needs a little bit of work. I mean, it's almost completely back. It wasn't horrible, but by the time I remembered the idea of creating this video tutorial, I'd already pretty much finished reprofiling and getting it back. But nonetheless, I can still show you and explain to you what I do and how I'm able to restore these tips and bring them back to a nice point. Alright guys, so we want to do, you want your edge always marked with Sharpie every time you go to flip it. Alright, so starting at the heel, just gonna, with very easy pressure, we're going in, back, literally no pressure. I'm just holding the handle and letting the weight of that do the work. We don't want to go just straight back and forth and stay in place, because then you'll end up with part of the blade that has an indent to it or a flat spot and so forth. When this knife first came in, there was a little bit of a dip in the blade profile right here. He said this one has been well used and beat up, but that is nothing that I cannot handle. I'll definitely be able to, you know, restore this and get this thing back to tip-top shape for you, Steve, without any question. So the edge dipped in and then came back down at the heel, but I have since then strained out that profile just by keeping the stone moving. And it doesn't even have to be dramatic movement. You just don't want to stay in the exact same spot for too long. And at the same time, you don't want to stay on the same side for too long either, or else you're going to end up with a much larger edge bevel on one side of the knife. So I am not adding any pressure here, okay? I am, look, very gently holding this just so the stone can't twist. All right, I don't want it to roll off the edge that way or that way. So you can see the stone carrier, as I'm coming around this way, it starts to kind of curve like that or tilt a little bit so that it can follow the profile. All right, so you want to let the stone follow the profile of the blade, but then when we get to the tip, this is where a lot of people have issues. All right, you can see where the Sharpie is. All right, so when we get to this tip, I'm going to keep the stone, look, I'm keeping it kind of tilted back like that, but it's not really tilting up. I'm just keeping the pressure towards this side, the inside of the stone. So out here, that'll be considered the outside, you know, out past the tip, and the inside is towards the heel. So I'm keeping that weight off of the front of the stone so that there is no chance of it rolling off the edge or rounding the tip off even more by allowing it to continue that tilted pattern or tilted motion as it's following the original blade profile. It's going to start tilting, okay? But then once you get to the tip right here, you transition that pressure to the inside. You put your finger under the blade like that, and that is going to prevent you from rolling off the tip or rounding off the tip, which is essentially the same thing. And then when you watch your Sharpie, okay, and see the profile that it is creating. So that is keeping me away from this point right here. If the stone was running off that point right there, then it would be rounding it off. But because I'm keeping the pressure off of it, all right, I'm able to restore the tip. So that is essentially what you need to do. And obviously I would keep going until that Sharpie is removed. But for the sake of time of the video, I will go ahead and flip it. All right. So let me mark my edge. Remember, like I said, you want to mark the edge every single time you flip it. Very, very important. I recommend getting yourself a wide tip Sharpie. Makes it a lot easier. And that the wide tip Sharpie will last you much, much longer than the fine point will when it comes to marking the edge. Back out a little bit so you can see what my hand is doing. Okay, coming around to the tip. Or actually here, so you can see what my hand does. Alright. So it's following the edge, and then I'm kind of tilting the pressure back, put my finger out past the tip. And you can come out past the tip about 3/4 of the way. Your finger out past the tip will keep you from rolling off the tip. I'm not using any pressure really at all. I'm not even letting the full weight of this lean down onto the stone. We'll zoom in. And as you can see, by the Sharpie right there at the tip, you can see where the tip was rounded off and how it is kind of forming that new pointy tip, because I'm not continuously wearing off or grinding off the steel right there where you want it. If you want to bring the tip back, you can't keep on grinding on the actual tip. You have to kind of keep it tilted up, and it will grind away the steel above the tip and allow that profile to essentially create a new and pointy tip. So I don't know any other words to really describe what I'm doing or how it's working, but I assure you this has worked for me every single time that I've needed to bring a tip back. Remember, I'm keeping that weight to the inside, that pressure. So, see the difference in the stone? Look. So it's kind of just like lifting up on the front of it just a hair. Like that. Alright, finger underneath. You don't want to lean back too far on it, or else it'll kind of work against you. You will end up, you know, grinding the steel too high up, and you're just gonna, oh, how do I explain it? You're not gonna create the original looking profile. It'll end up making the tip look funky and kind of like bringing it out too far in a way. So in order to restore it to the original pointiness, or maybe just a hair pointier, you know, you just want to be keeping the pressure of the stone to the inside, just a hair. And you want to keep, hold on baby, you want to keep your finger underneath of the tip every time you're coming around and coming out past it, so you are 100% sure that you are not going to round it off and work against yourself and head in the wrong direction, because it takes a lot more time to bring the tip back than it takes to take the tip off. You can take the tip off in a split second, and it takes you know, it can take hours to bring a tip back. But I just follow the exact process that I showed you, you know, from working it from side to side. And once you have the profile, you know, looking pretty decent, you want to go ahead and check to make sure that your angles are all good. So going to turn on my angle cube. I have a piece of steel right there, so it's magnetic to the base, and that keeps my angle accurate. Here, flip it around. Hopefully you guys can see it. All right, around 19.5. All right, so very close. All right, so around 19.5 at the heel and the tip. Bring it over to this side. Oh ho, what do you know? 19.5 at the heel, and all right, almost 20 at the tip. But that just kind of reaffirms what I'm seeing with the Sharpie. So remember, I tell you mark it every time, and we still have Sharpie at the bottom of the edge right there. All right, so the Sharpie doesn't lie. That just goes to show you. That's why it is important to continue marking your edge every time you flip, and yeah, that will help you see exactly what you're doing. Because I assure you, no matter how experienced of a sharpener you are, and no matter how good your eyesight is, I promise you that your eyes can play tricks on you. And you know, just trust me, marking the edge with the Sharpie is going to save you tons of unnecessary extra time and unnecessary headache from you know, spots that you think you need to continue grinding on, if you actually don't need to continue grinding on that spot, or the opposite. So yeah, you just continue working it back and forth like that, and have patience, and don't try to muscle it. You know, this is a finesse kind of process. It's not about muscling the profile back into the shape that you want it to be. You have to trust the process. All right, let's go over the exact things, the main points. All right, main points. Every time you flip it, mark the edge. Okay. Now, secondly, you want to keep the stone moving. All right, you don't want to stay in one spot just straight up and down. You can still keep your scratch pattern almost perfectly vertical as long as you are continuously moving at least a little bit. You don't want to be grinding down, you know, whatever width your stone is, that wide of a section of the blade, and not be distributing it evenly to the rest of the profile. All right, and finger out past the tip, leaning back towards the heel just a hair, and coming out past that tip. Your finger, keep it kind of tilted up like that, so there is no chance of you accidentally falling off the tip and rounding it off, or tipping over the tip and rounding it off. And let's see what we're looking like. All right, so looking pretty damn good. Just have a little bit more to go, but you don't want to stay on one side too long. So I'll probably make a couple more passes right here at the tip, and then go over to this side. Or actually, the main thing is you want to be aware of how your edge bevels are looking on each side. So I just flipped it over just to check, and the edge bevel is wider at the tip on this side, and that also was confirmed with the angle cube, that I was at 19.5 at the tip on this side, and I was at 20 on the tip at this side. So this side needs to come down 1/2 degree. So that means I do need to continue profiling right there at that tip. But the thing is I can't sit in place and only grind on that little end part of the tip. I have to kind of keep working the whole edge proportionally. I can stay just in this little section right here for a couple passes at a time, but then ultimately I'm going to need to you know, bring it back further and work the whole edge, so I am keeping the profile even. If I just stay up here in this area, then obviously the edge bevel is going to get much larger, and I'm going to unproportionally grind away steel only in this section. So if you're trying to have a nice proportional you know, blade profile or edge profile that is consistent with the original design of the knife, then you have to you know, keep it moving and keep working through the entire edge. So that's going to pretty much conclude it for this one. I'm not going to keep you guys here and completely finish the process on camera because it would just be redundant. You know, so that is how you do it. Trust the process, stick to those things, and you will have great results. You will be able to bring back rounded off tips. The more severe your tip is rounded off or broken, the longer it's going to take, because you can't only just focus in that part. The fact that you have to continue working through the blade evenly, that kind of creates a longer process, but it will also keep your, original blade profile intact. So, hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, need anything clarified, don't hesitate to ask it in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. I love you guys. Jesus loves you. Stay tuned, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.